Teaching for Equality, Curriculum for Fair Opportunity. When brainstorming about this subject, I couldn't help but think of the story of Erin Gruell and the Freedom Riders. It's a nonfiction book that details her time at Woodrow Wilson High School in Long Beach, California, and the horrific personal stories of her students that ultimately led to their individual triumphs. I was able to draw a lot of parallels between key points of this diversity theory discussed in our textbook and the way that Miss Gruell conducted her classroom on an everyday basis. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This very true statement has been attributed to everyone from John C. Maxwell to Teddy Roosevelt, but it stands true today. The first step in forming a classroom that displays equal opportunity is to be open to your students and allow them to put their trust in you and be themselves. Any individual wants to be well liked and accepted by those in charge, but especially a child. From preschool through high school, almost every student has a favorite teacher at some point in their lives. All of these ways to show interest are ways that I would list what my favorite teachers did for me growing up. Acceptance, affection, giving time, and having an interest in my life were a big deal for me, as they are for any student. John Hattie has written 2 books detailing more than 800 studies covering 80 million students, and these books are the result of 15 years worth of research about what works best for learning in our schools. He's been called the world's most influential education academic, and here he's simply saying that those teachers that have created methodical and well-balanced relationships with their students are more likely to have greater impacts on their personal and scholastic achievements. So going back to the story of the Freedom Riders, the students were sometimes affiliated with gangs or even battling homelessness, and they were hardly going through the motions of being a regular high school student at the beginning of the year. A lot of them were struggling in school, not on track to graduate, and they brought in a lot of emotional and sometimes physical baggage that a typical middle-class student wouldn't have. However, a supportive learning environment is a big key to keeping a student's mind open to learning. And after intercepting a demeaning and racist cartoon drawn by one of her students, Ms. Gruell compared it to the propaganda that was put out during the Holocaust. She demanded fair treatment in her classroom. Ms. Gruell could have easily sent the artist to the office, but she chose to make it a learning moment for the entire class. This seemingly small decision shaped their curriculum and class culture for the rest of the year, and she displayed how important it is to accept other students regardless of race or Now, at first, Miss Gruell's mention of the Holocaust was met with blank stares. However, she was able to get their attention very quickly with assignments to read and discuss books detailing this crazy time in world history. The students were able to draw lines from their everyday lives, whether it be through gang life, living in poverty, dealing with constant harassment and racism, or the threat of homelessness, back to what they were studying in class. Our textbook states that educators are expected to expand students' knowledge of the world, not hide them from the realities that exist because of class differences. And I think Miss Gruell nailed it. Not only did she get her class to see more than their own skin color and their own personal situations, but she opened windows to see into each other's lives and allowed them to appreciate each other. The class even raised money to get Meepkies to come to America and talk to them about what they studied, which was significant because she was part of the group that helped shelter the famous Frank family from the Nazis during World War II. Not only were the students excited to hear her message, but it was also being given by somebody from another ethnicity, which would have been something that they would have struggled to accept at the beginning of their time with Miss Gruell. If a student is able to put their trust in you and their environment, including their peers, they'll be more open to what you have to say. For example, when teaching about different cultures in social studies or discussing an excerpt in a book about a particular people and their persecution or triumph, it will be easier for them to put themselves in another pair of shoes if the instructor has broken down the hardened exterior of the sometimes apathetic student. Just as important, students need to be able to understand that just because they're different from one another does not mean that one is better or worse than the other. Every student has something to offer, and it's our job to provide them with a roadmap that will allow them to believe that with confidence. Once we're able to tap into the core, that's when learning, genuine interest, acceptance of ourselves and each other occur.